Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulih al-Kareem, amma ba'd. We have been discussing the prohibited elements in transactions, the causes that eliminate or that invalidate the transactions. So we discussed about riba. When we talk about riba, we discussed there are two types of riba. The first one is a riba on credit, riba al-nasi'ah, which was clearly mentioned in Quran. إنما البيع مثل الربا وأحل الله البيع وحرم الربا. And we also learned that the prohibition, how it is mentioned in the Quran, the Quranic verses regarding the prohibitions. Also some of the hadiths also we learned. Then we moved to talk about the second type of riba, which is actually riba in cash, riba al-Fadhl. So last time I was talking to you and was telling you a couple of hadiths. The first hadith I mentioned to you, al-Zahabu bil-Zahabi wal-Fiddatu bil-Fiddati wal-Burru bil-Burri wal-Sha'iru bil-Sha'iri. Prophet ﷺ said gold is to be paid for by gold, silver by silver, wheat by wheat, barley by barley, dates by dates, salt by salt, like by like, payment being made hand to hand. He who made an addition to it or asked for an addition, in fact, dealt in ushuri. The receiver and the giver are equally guilty. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim. So we talked about the 6 commodities that Prophet ﷺ is referring in his hadith. And together with that, there is another hadith of Bilal radiallahu anhu, which is reported by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. So when Bilal brought excellent kind of dates, the Prophet ﷺ asked, where is it from? Where did you get it? And he said, we barter one sa'. Maybe let's say sa' is actually a kind of measurement those days. Let's say if we want to paraphrase it, maybe 1 kilo of excellent kind of dates. And then he said, we barter 1 kilo of this type of excellent kind of date for 2 kilos of dates of ours, and 2 saws of it for 3 of us. So we need to say that we gave 2 kilo of inferior quality to get the superior quality. And then Prophet ﷺ said, don't do that. But when you intend to buy dates of superior quality, if you think you need a superior quality and you have already with you the inferior quality, don't go and simply exchange. Instead, what you do, you sell that inferior quality to the buyer and then get the money and then separate and then use that money to buy the superior quality. So there are so many hikam, there are so many reasons why Prophet ﷺ actually prohibited this, because he said that first of all, this dates is actually one of the 6 commodities that we discussed earlier, right? So now these 6 commodities, according to Zahiri, there was a madhab started by Ibn Hazm al-Zahiri. Zahiri is actually by its meaning is a apparent. So whatever comes from Quran and Hadith, they just want to follow apparently. They think they don't have to go through deep understanding. Just apparently, whatever it is, just follow. It's uh, it's one of the mazhab those days. So according to Zahiri, they say that only these six commodities, only these six items that you should not exchange unequally. You should be exchanging equally. You should not exchange equally. For example, 2 kilo of inferior dates cannot be exchanged with 1 kilo of superior dates, because both of them are dates, and also the dates are one of the six commodities that Prophet ﷺ said in the previous hadith. Then the Malikis, according to Malikis, they say that it can be the hadith mentions six commodities, but not necessarily confined to these six items. It could be extended to other commodities as well, because you have given the analogy, the qiyas. When Allah said that wine is haram, right? إنما الخمر والميسر. When Allah said al-khamr, the word khamr means wine. When Allah said wine is prohibited, it doesn't mean that other than wine is permitted, especially the drinks that considered as alcohol beverages, whether it is some other kind of prohibited items, whether it is a beer or some other kind of alcohol, anything. It is also considered. Why? Because there is an analogy of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited wine, because of the intoxication. So if you get that intoxication in anything, not necessarily only in the drinking alcohol beverages, if there is a powder, people using it, remember, if there is a powder, people using it for the sake of intoxication, they just want to get addicted. And then there is a leaf, there is a leaf of tree. That leaf, if you take it and then you boil it and then you drink it and then you get intoxicated, even is little, even 1%, it is also haram. It is also prohibited, because the purpose of prohibition of khamr is not only the khamr, it's because anything is intoxicated. If someone is taking the medicine not for the purpose of recovery, not for the purpose of treatment, but he is taking some medicines just for the purpose of intoxication, it is also haram. It is totally prohibited, right? So anything, whether someone is smoking and the purpose of smoking is actually getting intoxicating, it is actually haram. If someone is using some sort of technical smoking, they have the devices nowadays, right? If that one is intoxicating you, then it is going to be haram, because the purpose of wine, haram, prohibition of haram, is actually getting intoxicated. So now that is one example, the great example of qiyas. So now most of the ulama, they actually bring that qiyas, they actually bring that analogy. Then they say, what is the purpose of prohibition of these six commodities? Then take that purpose and then apply into anything. So according to Imam Malik, he said that yes, because the gold and silver being as a currency, you cannot exchange, for example, 50 dinar for 60 dinar. You cannot do that exchange. 50 dinar for 60 dinar, but will be paid in deferment, will be paid by next week. So that is clearly, it shows it clearly that it is actually usuri, which as already you learned in Riba and nasi'ah, right? So now if someone asking for 50 dinar and 100 silver, which is dirhams, yeah, this one is two of the commodities. They are actually not same commodity, they are different commodities. They exchange according to your intention. You can do this exchange because different commodities can be exchanged. So now according to Imam Malik, he said that all those currencies, all those food stuffs, because the purpose of because now every Imam is looking into the Hadith, they are looking into the illah, the reason of prohibition. Why Prophet ﷺ said it. So now everyone has a different ideas, but all of them interrelated. According to Imam Malik, is a storability. He said that anything that you can store, so all these food items can be stored. So all these items, when you exchange, you cannot actually add. For example, you are you are taking from someone 50 kilo of wheat, and then the condition is you have to pay him after 1 month 60 kilo of wheat, right? So usually it happens in the market that you buy 100 kilo of sugar and then you have to pay back the money. If you pay back the money later, it's okay, because when you pay back the money for the sugar, money is two different things, because sugar is one commodity and money is different. So now you are not actually exchanging the same commodity. You got me? But when the condition is like this, because those days there were exchange, barter exchange. So those days when they are taking 100 kilo of sugar, and in return after 1 week or 2 weeks he has to give back 110 kilo of sugar, then that additional 10 kilo will become riba. You got it? So now it could be the example of the barter exchange. But what about now? Okay, now if you are exchanging the foreign exchanges, the money that you are exchanging, if you are exchanging, like for example $100, and in return you are getting it for $110 after 1 month or 1 week, then it will, the additional $10 will become riba, right? So now this is what actually according to Imam Malik, he brings the illah is actually storability. So now you think about your place, whatever that you can store, it comes under 6. For example, according to Malaysia, palm oil can be stored, sugar can be stored, corns can be stored, right? So many other things, so many things can be stored, the storage. But you cannot store the vegetables, you cannot store the fruits. The fruit items cannot be stored because it will get sick. So it will get destroyed, yeah, it will get made. So now they argue the illah is actually storability. But when it comes to Imam Shafi'i and Imam Hanbali, he says that he agree about what Maliki says on gold and silver, because in the gold and silver it contains the storability, but it is not necessary. It could be also extend, not necessary only the storable items, it could extend to all food items. So according to Imam Shafi'i and Imam Hanbali, you can't even do the exchange of vegetables. If you buy 100 kilo of onion, you cannot ask someone to pay back 110 kilo of onion next week, right? So that one is also not possible. When it comes to Imam Abu Hanifa, he says that the extended the hadith to all commodities, whatever commodities can be weighed and measured. If there is a weight, let's say you call it kilo or liters, the weightages or the measurement, you can say for example pound, You can say, for example, the measurement like meters, like centimeters, like a cubic meters. Yeah, these are the things. So the combined effect of these two hadiths, when you look into these two hadiths, of course, the ribawi items, the ribawi properties are exchanged against each other. They should be exchanged on equal basis and exchanged on the right time. So now the question might comes that why someone has to exchange this on the equal basis, and then why someone has to exchange immediately, right? One of the example can be given that when you are going and changing your money, for example, you have 100 ringgit and you want to change to somebody, so 100 into 10 times 10 ringgit, or 20 times 5 ringgit, or 100 times 1 ringgit. So if someone is giving you the change, it has to be on the same time and it has to be equal. If someone says that, okay, I will give you the change, but I will give you only 90 ringgit, 10 ringgit I will keep it. Then that 10 ringgit become riba for him, right? That is one of the understanding as well. But remember what I told you yesterday, when it comes to, because if someone is actually looking into this hadith, according to Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, right? Ibn Qayyim actually gives this idea of, this. He has a great his magnum opus, his book, by the name of I'lam al-Muqi'in, I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, right? I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in min Rabbil Alamin. In this book, actually, he is giving this idea that all these 6 commodities were they were the currencies of those days. That is the reason why Prophet ﷺ, when he heard that Bilal was doing it, and then he asked him not to do it, because it is considered as a currency. So now, because why it is considered currency? First of all, these 6 items, including salt, these 6 items is actually one of the most necessary items for the human being. And in each and every house, there is no house without it. Those days, if you go to any house in that place, there is no house without these 6 items. These 6 items are compulsory, conditional. It is compulsory in the most important, crucial items. Everybody will keep dinar, dirhams. Everybody will keep dates. Everybody will keep wheat, barley, and then salt. Everyone will keep all these things, all 6 items. So these 6 items considered as a mal, is considered as a wealth, it's considered as a currency. So now, if you look from that perspective, you can also apply the same hadith today. Today, what are the things that we feel is currencies, right? Maybe we don't feel dates are the currencies today. Today, we just feel dates is like a fruits. Yeah, some of us thinks like it's a dry fruit. We don't even consider as a currency. But today we have so many different items, different things that we call it currencies. We call papers as a currency. We call iron, minting the irons, we call it currencies. Yeah, even there are some crypto, which is actually online, which is actually mining algorithms. We also call it currencies. We call crypto as a currencies. We also have points that we are using it during our transactions. We have some WeChat points. We have some, Maybank points or CIMB bank points. We are actually using it. Even we have some flight points that we are using it. These are the bonus links that people are giving, the companies are giving to you. You can actually exchange those things into something. You can use it. For example, if you're traveling in a particular airlines, they will give you some points, and then when you are purchasing any ticket, they can become your currency, so that you can actually reduce, you can deduct your payment. So these are the things. Today we have a different sort of we call it vouchers, for example. When you go for online shopping, they give you vouchers and you use the voucher as a money. You got my point? So I'm just telling, if you think about the current situation, that what are we using it, the hadith is still applicable, that whatever that you think that you are using as a currency, you are not allowed to exchange it equally. Sorry, you are not allowed to exchange it unequally. uh, you cannot say that, okay, I will help you with 100 points, I will transfer my 100 points to you, but next time, next week, you have to return back 200 points to my account. Say it's a kind of riba, because that points can play the role of money. Because when you are deducting, when you are paying, you are allowed to deduct, use that point to deduct your payment. You can actually use that voucher, so it's become like a money. So you cannot simply say that, okay, I give you this and then later you have to pay me back additionally. You cannot say that. You cannot say that I will transfer some money right now because you need, for example, let me transfer this 50 ringgit to your account, but when I need it, you better transfer back to me 60, because this one become also riba, riba al-Fadhl. So now whatever that we think as a currency, we cannot actually ask for equal exchange. And if we are exchanging, if we are exchanging, for example, like I told you earlier, I have 100 ringgit and then I want it to exchange equally, for example, 10 times 10 ringgit or 20 times 5 ringgit. I have to do it immediately, right? I cannot do it later, right? Okay. Now, what about exchanging different items, not the same currencies, different currencies, for example? Yeah, so now I have points in one hand and then ringgit in another hand. So I tell you, I'm willing to pay you 10 ringgit for 20 points, or 20 ringgit for 40 points, right? So I pay you my ringgit, can you transfer the points to me? So now what happens actually, these are the differences. When you are exchanging the currencies, for example, I have a 10 US dollar, can you give me 20 ringgit, or can you give me 40 ringgit, or can you give me 80 ringgit? These are the differences is actually allowed. When there is a differences in currencies, I think it is allowed. You have a cryptocurrency in your account, maybe it worth of thousands and thousands. So I say, can you pass to me your cryptocurrency? I am ready to give you 50,000 ringgit. So now one cryptocurrency can go up to it. Anyway, we already have the measurement of exchange rate and everything, but it is allowed to even pay more. You got my point. For example, 1 US dollar is actually equal to somehow 4 ringgit by the time that I'm talking. If you are willing to pay 5 ringgit, and you want to take my $10, you really need my $10, and you are willing to pay 5 ringgit for each dollar. So you pay me 50 ringgit and then I give you $10. I think it is possible, because it is not considered as a riba unless I ask you, unless I put the condition. Then of course, if I make a condition, of course you will go to somebody else, and where you can get the cheaper, you can get the cheaper, because the market is open for that. But if you are willing to pay extra and I'm taking it, but it is not considered as a riba, because changing the exchange. So now the same thing goes to all these currencies items that we are using it today. But what about the things which is not currency, which is not storable items, right? Which is not actually uh, uh, something that obvious to, I mean, it is not something something that practical in payment. For example, you want to exchange your car for different for another two cars. What if you want to exchange your goat for another two goats? What if you want to exchange your chicken for another two chickens? See that? So these are the things. It is the hadith is not actually considering these kind of things. Because why? Because these are the things. Or first of all, this is not the similar items. Remember, I told you last time there is a homogeneous and non-homogeneous. What is homogeneous? Homogeneous means the similar items. So you can get the same sugar, you can get the same wheat, you can get the same corn, you can get the same things like rice and everything, right? By the way, but when it comes to non-homogeneous, which is a dissimilar items, you don't see it directly, you don't see it similar, because one cow, one goat not necessarily has to be the same. You cannot even get exactly 100% the same goat. You cannot get it. A goat has a different characteristics. You cannot have the same characteristic of the goat in another goat. Some goats may be like, fatty, chubby. Some goats are not like that. Okay, so now there are differences. So that's the reason why, if you are dealing with those kind of non-homogeneous things, it is up to you. You don't have to. By the way, I'm talking about the used car, because if it is a brand new car, it's actually similar product. I'm talking about the used car. If it's a used car, it will be it comes under non-homogeneous product. So if you have a used phone, your used phone become non-homogeneous product. That is the reason why, when these antiques or antiques has a different value than the similar items. For example, if there is a pen, there is a writing pen used by a prime minister or the president of a country, or some celebrities, you may call it, or some important teachers and professors. It has a different value on it, right? You may have a similar pen, but it is not going to be the same to same, because this is the used pen, and who used it is a different personality used it. So the used items becomes the non-homogeneous properties. For example, I have a book. When I buy the book from the same store, I have hundreds of books, the same thing, it become homogeneous. But when I bought that book and I started putting my notes on it, for example, most of you have your book, but you put your own notes. So that notes has no value. I mean, you cannot put some value. It is valueless. You cannot, because those notes is your notes. So you cannot put some money on that. It has to be more than that, beyond the value. That's what I mean. I don't think that there is no value in your writing. Of course, there is a value in your writing. What I mean by that is beyond value. All right. If someone took your textbook and then lost it, in your textbook you wrote so many things, your ideas, your analysis, your discussion, everything, and then someone lost your book, and then later come and say, okay, I lost your book. No, don't worry, I will go and buy the new one. So he might come and buy and give it to you, the new one, but it is not going to be the same that you gave it to him or you gave it to her. All right. So now, similar and dissimilar properties. So now when you are exchanging the dissimilar properties, it doesn't need to be the same. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, equal. You can even change it for the unequal you can exchange it for unequal. You can exchange unequally. You can also defer the payment for that. So that one is actually different thing. So these are the differences I just wanted to tell you. All right. It is also so now. Let's go through the slides. I think you almost got it, right? So this is where the hadith comes, and then gold, silver, wheat, barley, dates, and salt. I think you need to know how they are doing. They differ among themselves as to the reason illah. So everyone has a different illah. Maliki talks about storability, and Shafi and Hanbali is actually extending the all food stuff. The Hanafi usually they go for the sold items by weight and measurement. The combined effect of these two hadiths is that when ribawi properties are exchanged against each other, they should be exchanged. So when riba al-Fadhl arises, the riba al-Fadhl will come when one of these commodities is exchanged for an unequal amount of the same commodity. And when the amount are equal, the delivery of one of them is deferred. If delivery is deferred and exchange also unequal, then we call it riba al-Fadhl. This is the example. For example, usuri is either to sell or exchange 1 measures of wheat for 2 measures of wheat, or 1 kilo of dates for 2 kilo of dates, or 1 measure of wheat for 2 measures deliverable at a future period. This is actually riba al-Fadhl. If the parties are not willing to exchange their commodities, such as dates on equal basis, then one of them should sell his dates and use the money to purchase the dates from the other party. The same thing I would say if you want to exchange your money. Usually we are actually exchanging the money when you are doing the currency exchanging. What happens inside you don't know. You only see outside, right? But inside there is something, because when you are exchanging ringgit for rupiah, when you are exchanging rupiah for a ringgit, it is not exactly a ringgit and rupiah is exchanging. There is another guy is actually doing the exchange, which is a US dollar. It could be euro, it could be pound, anybody. So now when you as you can see, when you see the price of let's say for example you say that euro versus pound. If euro is 1 euro equal to 2 pound, for example, if 1 euro is equal to 2 pound, or maybe 1.5 pound, I think 1 euro is equal to 1.5 pound, which is pound from UK. Then do you know who is determining this ratio 1:1.5? Do you know who is determining this ratio? US dollar is actually determining this ratio. Even though you are exchanging one currency for another currency, but it's actually when you are exchanging your currency, you are actually paying your currency. Actually you are getting the US dollar. From that US dollar is actually you are buying another currency. That is what actually internally happening, right? But from outside you don't see it. That's how the foreign exchange market is actually working. But deep inside, if you see how the money is exchanging, it's based on the US dollar, because the US dollar is the strongest money for now. All right. Okay. Equality is not a condition where different ribawi commodities are exchanged against each other. However, such an exchange should take place immediately and from hand to hand. For instance, the sale of 10 grams of gold for 50 grams of silver, and the sale of 2 loads of barley in exchange for 1 load of wheat are not usuri, because these commodities are not the same type. All right, it's up to you. You can actually exchange as much as you want. However, the exchange should be immediate. It is not lawful to sell 10 grams of gold for 50 grams of silver, or 1 measure of wheat for 2 measures of barley, payable at future time. You cannot do that for for future times. For example, I cannot say that okay, um, you give me your wheat, 2 kilo of wheat. I'll give you 4 kilo of barley, but I will not give you today. I will give you after 1 week. This is actually this deferment is actually wrong according to the hadith. But what is right? How to make this right? There is a way to make it right. For example, you pay me 2 kilo of wheat. I supposed to pay you 4 kilo of barley, but instead I pay you the money. So now the defer payment is allowed if you are dealing with the currency, if you are dealing with the money other than the commodity. Let's say I said, all right, you give me 2 kilo of wheat. I will pay you 10 ringgit next week. This is correct. This is called defer payment and this is allowed. But if you say you give me 2 kilo of barley, sorry, 2 kilo of wheat, I will give you 4 kilo of barley next time. Then this one, I mean next week, this deferment is not allowed according to the hadith. All right. But what is allowed? If you convert that into money, the 4 kilo of the barley, you convert, which is actually we are doing, because now we are not actually doing this barter exchange. Now we are actually doing the currency exchange. So we already know, okay, you take the money and you pay me later, which is actually this. Even you can actually say, for example, you take the money. This is where most of the people still misunderstanding. According to most of the, according to the fiqh, some of them they disagree with this, but most of them they agree with it. If I say that you pay me 2 kilo, you give me 2 kilo of, if you need 2 kilo of wheat, I pay you 8 ringgit now. But if you pay me, if let's say I'm selling the wheat to you and I'm saying this is the 2 kilo of wheat, you buy from me, if you pay 8 ringgit, okay, you have to pay 8 ringgit. But if you are paying me next week, then you have to pay me 10 ringgit. You got the idea? If you are paying now 8 ringgit, naqad, they call it a naqad, which means that ready payment, instant payment, 8 ringgit. But if you are delaying, you are not paying today, you are paying next week, you have to pay 10 ringgit. So this is what we call, this is what actually, it is not exactly the riba. This is not actually riba. Riba has to be the same thing, money for money. But when you are exchanging with money and the commodity, when you are exchanging money with the commodity, it fall outside ribawi commodities. Right? You see that the condition of equality or immediateness of delivery are not applicable to the properties that fall outside ribawi commodities. Properties that are not sold by weight, measurement, counting could be exchanged based on the agreement of the parties. So now coming back to what I said, let's take the installment payment. Right? When you are buying a motorbike, let's say some of you have already bought motorbike, you said that this motorbike, the cost is 4,000 ringgit something, 4,000 ringgit. If you have the cash, you pay immediately, you pay 4,000 ringgit, you will get it back. You will get your motorbike immediately for 4,000 ringgit. But what if they say, okay, you can actually buy this motorbike from me, but if you want to defer, if you want to pay defer, the price is 4,200 ringgit or 4,500 ringgit. So now they say, okay, this 4,500 ringgit, you pay me in 12 months. You pay me in 12 months, which we call it installment payment. This one is actually allowed, except few scholars actually still they disagree with this, but there are scholars actually they are agreeing with it, which actually what we are actually using installment payment, or they call it enterprises payment. So these are the payments now is happening. It is not necessarily it has to be, but if you do that for money, remember, money for money is haram. Let's say you go and you get the loan from someone, 1,000 ringgit, and then he says that okay, you pay me back in 12 months. Every month you pay 100 ringgit, so the total is 1,200 ringgit, 1,200 ringgit. Then this additional 200 is
Yeah.
actually riba. But when you are doing the same thing with the commodity, with something you are buying, for example, you are buying any commodities, and then the payment, if you buy immediately, if you buy, the payment is actually less. When you buy after 1 month, then the money is different. So now fixing the price for the commodity, it's up to the buyer. Sorry, it is up to the seller fixing the price. So now according to him, he is fixing the price. You are getting it now, I give you discount this price. If you are not getting it now, you are paying later, then this is the price. All right, so these are the differences are there, so I hope you try to understand. All right, so now this is the wisdom hikmah behind the prohibition of riba al-fadl. Could be the value of a ribawi commodity such as dates cannot be ascertained. For instance, the value of the lower quality dates cannot be ascertained with reference to a higher quality date. It is a value has to be established with reference to some other measures such as gold or silver. Riba al-Fadhl was prohibited also to block the means to riba al-nasi'ah. So riba al-Fadhl is also connected to riba al-nasi'ah, because someone can come and say, if dinar is a kind of commodity, can we just make a deal? Like for example, you pay me now, I will pay you later with extra. Because this, if he consider gold as a commodity, this is what actually will lead to riba and nasi'ah. That's the reason why saddud daraya, it becomes the block, the means to riba and nasi'ah. Okay, what are the differences? There are 4 differences between riba and nasi'ah and riba al-fadl. Remember the 4 differences. Number 1, riba and nasi'ah prohibited by the Quran and the Sunnah. Right, but riba al-fadl, the second item, the second category of the riba, it is not prohibited by Quran, but it is only prohibited by Sunnah. Right, that's why the hadith that I told you, al-dhahabu bil-dhahabi, al-fiddatu bil-fiddati, al-burru bil-burri, this hadith comes from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not from the Quran. This is the first difference. The second one, riba and nasi'ah may happen in cases of loan, while riba may happen in the sale. The first one is actually asking for the loan. The other one is actually for the sale. During the sale contract, riba al-fadl may happen. Number 3, in cases of debt, it is possible that a debtor voluntarily returns an additional amount to the creditor, while in exchange of ribawi commodities against each other, any addition is prohibited. Right? So this is the additional things that that creditor giving an extra on the top of items, then it is actually prohibited. That's number 3. Number 4, riba and nasi'ah is bad in itself. We call it muharram li dhatihi. That's why it comes from Quran and Sunnah. So now muharram li dhatihi, muharram li ghayrihi, the difference is the basic things, the basic idea is actually halal, but if you do it in the wrong context, then it becomes haram. That is what we call muharram li ghayrihi. Muharram li dhatihi means itself it is haram. Even the essence, the basic idea is haram. For example, riba and nasi'ah, the basic idea of asking for additional amount the money for money is basically haram. But when it comes to riba al-Fadhl, because riba al-Fadhl is actually related to the sale contract. According to our knowledge, the sale contract is actually halal. The sale contract is actually halal, but only the elements, these are the elements, when it comes, then it becomes haram. Okay, I gave you another example, if you remember, for Muharram li zatihi. It's haram because of something. I gave you a very good example last time. Doing business is actually halal. Doing business is actually halal. But when there is a Jum'ah prayer is going on, when there is a Jum'ah prayer is going on, and you are not supposed to do the business, you are supposed to close the business, because clearly Quran talks about it, right? إذا نودي للصلاة أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. Allah said وذروا البيع, leave, let your business go, leave your business and go back to Allah, right? So now doing business is halal, but you cannot do it on the time of Jum'ah, then it become haram. There are so many examples like this. The same thing here, riba al-nasi'ah, it is bad in itself. Muharram li zatihi, bad itself, li zatihi, and riba al-Fadhl, muharram li ghayrihi, for the sake of others, as it leads to riba al-nasi'ah. All right. So I think I stop here. Let me just show you the password. Yeah.